It's a Friday, which means that the show goes off the rails, and I know that's a shock to each and every one of you. John here, you there. It's another round of Soccer's Morning Show, Soccer Down Here. Busy show, and it is we're going to start off in Australia. We'll get there in just a sec with Luke Winstel and the Merry Band, and we'll catch up with Luke. And Luke has brought company, and we can also talk about footy as well. So we'll get into that coming up in just a little bit. Niko Moreno will be the tail end. He'll be the bookend at 10:30. We'll have Thursdays with Niko on a Friday. We'll talk about Leagues Cup. We'll talk about news of the morning. Harry Kane, apparently it's deadline day for Daniel Levy to talk to Bayern. All this stuff. And we got the twos tonight on the SDH network coming up. When is it? Like 7. So pregame show, 15 minutes before that. So that's what's going on. Not a lot. So what we're going to do, we're not going to waste any time. We're in a no dilly, no dally zone. And that means we go to Australia. How cool is it to say that? We're going to Australia, by the way.
We're down under.
Yes, you are. It is our friend Luke Winstel. And Luke has brought reinforcements in the form of Brooke Evans. And the thing is, get this. All right, so full disclosure. They were in, David, we'll get it. Definitely, we're going to get into Haiti and China coming up in just a little bit because that did not end well if you are a fan of, refereeing and things. We'll get into reffing down here in a little bit. But, all right, so here's the deal. We go on at 9:05. For those of you of a certain age, you know that we do that as an homage to Turner time. Turner Broadcasting, it would always be like 9:05, 10:05, games at 7:05, that kind of thing. So, Luke and Brooke, they come on incredibly early. They're ready to go at 9 o'clock. So there's 5 minutes early, and I'm sitting here trying to figure out the show and everything, and we're getting everything squared away and ready. And so they come in, and Brooke and I monopolize the pre-show conversation because why, Brooke?
Because we're from the same area, which is crazy, California.
Mm-hmm. I was born in California. I was right there on the edge of the LA County, Orange County line. And I was born in Lakewood. I'm an Orange County kid. I probably would have gone to Artesia High School had I stayed there. But moved here, careers here, all that stuff. So Brooke, first and foremost, how did you go from California to going to UGA? How does this work?
Right. I get that question all the time. I'm pretty used to answering it at this point. I'm going into senior year as well as Luke. So, going from California to Georgia was kind of a big step. A lot of people are across the coast, what are you doing? But I've always been interested in sports. In my high school, I used to do a sports broadcast program. I was one of the first girls to be a sports anchor on my little news program that we did. So sports was always what I wanted to go into. I was I want to be in a sports journalism program, sports broadcast program. So I looked around a bunch of colleges, see who had strong programs. I saw that Georgia had one, and I was well, perfect. Powerhouse SEC school. Can't find a better place than Georgia. And then I get there freshman year, and then sophomore year happens, and boom, natty. And then next year, boom, another natty, back to back. So I tell everyone it was the best decision I've ever made, especially for sports. I couldn't have picked a better school. So it's been awesome.
All right. And so since I'm trying to promote this live, Brooke, are you on the X?
The X, as in Twitter?
Yeah. Are you on the Twitters?
Yes, I am.
All right, so what is your official handle as I'm trying to multitask here as we're doing this?
I gotcha. It's Brooke Evans with 3 S's. So it's BROOKE EANSSS.
Got it. And you have the blue check mark and the promo photo. Okay. So, all right. So, all right. So, and you also escaped what's left of the Pac-12. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
So
it was a really hard break away from my family. I'm not going to lie, but they're happy now. They're happy to be Georgia fans.
And the thing is that once you do graduate, if the University of Georgia no longer gets national championships, you're going to be held responsible for this.
Oh, totally. Yeah. The thing is going to be pointed at me 1,000%. But
There you
I'm
go.
a Georgia Bulldog through and through now, so I'll take it.
Excellent. All right. So your beat in this particular international competition is Nigeria. Did you ever think that you would be covering a team that had a Texan who was in charge, who is at odds with his federation for good reason? And we'll get into that, and I'll let you explain that coming up as we go here. But did you ever think that you'd be covering a story that has as much political intrigue, financial intrigue involving a Texan that is coaching a team in Nigeria? I mean, what's it like for you with all of these subplots being wound up into one thing?
Right. Well, when we first got assigned our countries, right? Luke has Australia. We're all assigned different countries. I played soccer growing up, so I follow the World Cup a good bit. Nigeria is a staple for the World Cup. They've been at every World Cup since 1991, so that's all 9 of them, including this year. And they just haven't really done much. So I remember being assigned to it, and I was like, oh, man, all right, let's see what I can do here. Let's start, doing some research. Maybe we'll do some player profile stories, see what's going on here. And then I jump in, and I'm like, oh, wow, okay, fire going on in the country right now with coach and everything going on in the federation. So it was a little bit like, okay, what do I trust? What do I not? I'm just going to write down the facts as it is. And then we got here and I got to talk with the team and the coach, and it has truly been just so incredible. The coach is a great guy. One of my very first interviews with him, he's like, obviously everyone here is Australian or, doesn't speak English because it's the World Cup, you get reporters from everywhere. And so I go to talk to him. And keep in mind, Nigeria is very different than Australia practices. With the federation stuff, they don't have as much funding, yada, yada, yada. Practice is a lot more chill. So I was able to show up and actually have a one-on-one interview. Boom, right out the bat. It was awesome.
There you go.
And I got to talk to the coach, and obviously I'm speaking, and I'm, I got my American accent. And he's like, whoa, wait, where are you from? And I'm like, I know where you're from. And he's like, oh, I got you from the States, aren't you? I'm like, yeah, from California, go to school in Georgia. And he is like, oh, I'm from Texas. And I'm like, oh, please, I've been reading up about you for months. I know everything about you. And he starts dying laughing about that. And I have an older sister. She went to SMU, Southern Methodist University out in Texas.
Co-educational institution of higher learning in Dallas-Fort Worth. Yes.
What?
A co-educational institution of higher learning in the metro.
In Dallas. Yes. So I kind of started talking to him about that, and he was like, "Oh yeah, I'm not an SMU or TCU fan because I grew up a UT fan." So, we started chit-chatting about that, and here I am recording, trying to get this interview in, and I'm kind of thinking about it. I'm like, I have to send this to my advisor out here, a professor, and he's gonna be like, "Are you just chit-chatting with the head coach over here?" And I'm like, "Yep, yeah, I am." Anyway, so got great quotes from him. It's been a great time, honestly, and they had a really great game. I'm sure Luke's a little bummed out about it. Last night, Australia, Nigeria battle, big matchup.
Yes.
Win for Nigeria, big win for Nigeria. Went into the press conference, and I go to ask the coach a question, and his name is Coach Waldrum, Randy Waldrum is his name. And he stops me before I start even asking my question. He goes, this is on live broadcast too. He goes, oh my Georgia girl. Everyone in the room turns their heads, and I'm like, that's me. Yeah.
I was sitting next to her. I was like, I didn't know y'all were
tight like that.
I was like, what is happening?
You got ABC and Fox Sports in here, and they're all trying to ask him questions about this big game, and he was like, my Georgia girl.
He just wants to talk to Brooke.
But the thing is, those are the kinds of relationships that work well, especially in 100%. These international environments, where if you get that early in, and it gives Randy a bit of a comfort zone, knowing that there's someone else from the States that's going to be there that is basically the embed reporter and is going to be looking at every single move. And I know that, Luke, you see this as well. You get that constancy of presence, and then that way there's the familiarity with the individual, and they're more comfortable with you, and they'll answer your question probably a little better than it would be if it was someone they weren't familiar with. And I think that
1,000%.
those relationships, especially in these kind of worldwide environments, are huge because you don't get the chance to sit there and ask a lot of questions. But if the coach instantly sits there and goes, "Oh, there's Brooke," there's that comfort zone that's already there.
It's been awesome. Like you said, that comfort has really, like, you see it in my stories, and it's been such a beneficial tool that I've been able to have, been able to build off of. And you just see it with the whole team. Like the quotes that I get from these girls at the practice, granted, I am one of the only teams that, allows them as much freedom at their practices and other teams. There's usually a bit more regulation, but so I've been very fortunate with that, right out the bat, and it's just been awesome. So
all right, and now Luke, since we have to discuss this matchup, of Nigeria and Australia. Nigeria went in the juice boxes just under a plus 600. They get the win 3-2. Australia was the heavy favorite at a minus 196. Last time we talked, I wanted to know what the DEFCON level was in Australia after going into this match. You said it was DEFCON 4. Is it to DEFCON 5 heading to the last match of the group stage? Are we to the point where we're scrambling the Bombers and getting Sack on the line and getting the red phone to Washington, D.C.? I mean, what is going on?
Let me give you a call at 1 o'clock tomorrow. So here's what's going on right now in Australia. We heard right around maybe 4:30 today from one of the media coordinators, hey, we're going to make an announcement of media availability. I think you were asleep at this time.
You're right.
So we got a little text on the WhatsApp group of, hey, we're about to put something out. Like, just want to let you know, you should probably plan to come tomorrow. We're just working out details. I said, okay, well, sounds good. I didn't have plans in the afternoon. Now I do. So then we got a text around 7 o'clock in the WhatsApp. Sam Kerr's going to do a press conference along with Ellie Carpenter. And I said, oh, wait a minute. Sam Kerr's doing what's basically going to be an MD-2. And MD-2s for Australia are totally closed. So not only are they opening to allow media in the facility, they're giving us maybe the team's 2 best players. So there's something going on, and it sounds like we're going to get an announcement on Sam Kerr's status. I mean, why else would they put her out there? Maybe there's other reasons, but it sounds like that's what we're getting to. So at 1 o'clock tomorrow, or maybe 2 o'clock, once we're done talking to these players, maybe I can give you that DEFCON level. I think you'll be asleep, so maybe we'll wait till you wake up.
Yeah, count the hours.
But, I will say.
Like 35, something like that.
Yeah. Something like that. And I got to say, with Brooke, during the class in the spring, it seems like our teams have always been rivals. So in the spring, we were doing a practice assignment of covering club soccer in Europe. And
I forgot about this, yeah.
I had VfL Wolfsburg, and that was the team, the beat that I was covering every week. And I was looking at it and saying, okay, I think they're going to win the league. And who'd you have again?
Bayern Munich.
Yeah, Bayern. She had Bayern Munich. And I was like, okay, they're about to play.
That's not even a fair fight.
But it was at the start, right?
It was good. And Wolfsburg was ahead in the standings. And I was talking all this smack of like, oh, yeah, this team, their team's going to beat. And then, of course, Bayern Munich beats VfL Wolfsburg. So then we get to this game.
Put some money on it, too.
Can't say anything about that. So then we go into this Group B game, and it's Australia-Nigeria. And I'd been so confident in Australia. And the injuries obviously hurt the confidence, which is where you heard my, DEFCON 4 ranking. And we go in. I still say, okay, this is 0-0 or 1-0. Maybe one team breaks it loose. And we're sitting there first half. We're chatting back and forth a little bit. At halftime, I'm like, what if this ends up being a 3-2? And Brooke,
that was crazy. That was weird.
Brooke's like, what are you talking about? She's like, why are you even saying this? Like, what does it mean? And then turns out second half, I don't think we really talked much at all. Because I was sitting there like.
Luke went mute. I'm not going to lie. Luke went mute.
I was trying to figure out, because I was given 3 options of stories to write. And I was trying to figure out what is happening and how am I going to communicate what we're seeing and what questions are going to lead us to answers.
Sure. That's what was going through your head.
And I was just
sad.
Bewildered at what was happening
there's
the
the
process as well. Saying, hey, the stories and the interviews after losses are a little harder. So that was one that I'm like, Brooke's her team's beating my team again. What's going on here? And, you know,
a tale as old as time.
That's what happens.
They like Brooke more.
What was the question?
They like Brooke more, basically.
Yeah, it seems like the teams that she's had have, been better off. But
it's the Brooke effect.
Oh,
I'm gonna put it there.
That's what they call it. No, it's just funny when we're covering a beat. You get to know the team, you get to like people. Sometimes we're all, all of us here are really competitive people, so we like to talk a little smack.
We do.
So that's all just part of the fun, and we've enjoyed it. And now it also sets up some storylines that I didn't see coming, but that are really enticing with this matchup coming with Australia and Canada, and what's going on. Is it DEFCON 5, for example? And I think tomorrow, as soon as we finish with our Sam Kerr press conference, we'll know exactly, how far we are.
Yeah. Brooke, just so you know, since Luke has golden ticket status here on the show, and basically that means he can text me and sit there and go, I want to drop in. He has been here throughout the group stage, and I will extend the same courtesy to you while you're there. You and Luke can battle each other there, and you can come on the show and battle each other here. That's perfectly fine. So there's one of our listener viewers is actually there in Australia, and he runs the LAFC Australia podcast as part of his normal dynamic. And so Bam was asked about it in the Twitch pitch, our conversation that we have simultaneously while we're doing this.
Yeah.
Bam says people are pissed. Kerr should be available. AAMI Park in Melbourne will be going off on Monday versus Canada. And so Bam has kind of given us inside intel and has told Luke where to go and what to do while he's been there.
That's right. Yeah. And to speak a little about what you're saying, the frustration, I mean, obviously there's a lot of reasons to be frustrated. I think the tactical decisions from Australia are one of them. So when we're talking about in the second half of that game, when I'm trying to figure out what's going on and I'm trying to deal with a little bit of, what's happening, why are these substitutions so late, what's going on, like, is this some tactical move I'm not familiar with of like giving your game changers 5 minutes to play? Like, I was like, that's not something I'm used to. And eventually I found that a lot of people had those questions, and even, the coaching staff, Coach Gustafsson after was like, I'm going to have to look at that. Like, maybe that was right, maybe that was wrong. And I think that's about as close to a concession as we'll get on that.
I also think that a big part of that game was the fact that the players playing on that field for Nigeria had never played together in this tournament before. I mean, like in this year tournament before. The very first game against Canada, we were missing our two center mids, Halimatu Ayanite and Rashidat, and there are two big players. They were out due to suspension from WAFCON, which is the Africa Cup of Nations. From the very last game in the semifinals, they had a red card, so both of them were ineligible to play in their very first game with Canada. So this game was big for them. And then our star forward, Asisa Oshuala, is a big player. She's a Barcelona FC girl, star striker for them. She comes on the field and literally within 2 minutes, there's a goal. And then not even long after that, 7 minutes after that, another goal. And that just put them ahead. And I think that combination of the midfield and Oshuala having them in the midfield, it was something no coach could watch film on and judge because they haven't been able to play together. And then because of Asisa being on Barcelona, she wasn't able to play in WAFCON. So again, coaches weren't able to watch that film, watch that chemistry on the field. And after the game, we got to talk to them, and they said that, they've played forever and their chemistry is just unmatched. So I think they caught you guys on your toes, and that's maybe why some mistakes were made tactically. But I think, Nigeria really held it down. It was awesome.
All right. So one of our other viewers, Hutch, he has got a question for both of you, and we'll go ladies first because we believe in chivalry on the show. For Brooke, I'm going to go for Brooke and Luke. What player has surprised you the most? And it can be a player outside the team that you're covering if you want to go that direction. But what player, Brooke, has surprised you the most from the games that you've been able to watch?
It's a good question.
Good filibuster. That's a good way to start. That's good.
Yeah, it's a great question. Gives me some time to think. Covering Nigeria coming into it, all the players are pretty strong. But a lot of the media coverage for Nigeria is very low, given the fact that they came in 4th in WAFCON this year out of all the African nations. So, there was a lot of negative media. So I wasn't really expecting that much besides a seesaw because of the fact that she's coming off a big win, and Rashidat as well. I think the biggest one would probably be their keeper. Her name is Chiamaka Nnadozie, and just absolute just beast in the goal. And I think Luke and I were talking the entire time, and we both have a respect for sports, right? Like, it's our, assigned teams, but he even was like, she's so calm, cool, collected. Like,
She was cool.
Badass in goal. She's awesome. She won player of the match versus Canada, which was their opening match. Had an incredible penalty kick save. It was just awesome. So her performance has been stellar.
Luke, same question for you. What player has surprised you the most in this tournament? You can stick with your squad there with the Matildas, or you can go off the board.
Yeah, I'm not sticking with the Matildas right now just because a lot of the player ratings yesterday were in the range of about 6. There weren't a lot of individual players. If I did have to go with someone on the team, maybe I'd say a Claire Hunt type, just because of her ascension kind of coming out of nowhere in the past few months. That's been impressive. I was actually going to say Nigeria's goalkeeper just because of the calm, collectedness that you talked about. Also, I thought Haiti had a few. One of their forwards was spectacular. Yeah.
Corventina. Her name is Melchi. I don't know her last name, but I know her go-to nickname is Corventina.
Yeah.
She's baller.
Yeah. Super.
And it appears that there's a lot of conventional wisdom while we were starting our show here this morning that Haiti might have been hard done by in the match this morning, our time, that just ended as the show was going on. A couple of PK shouts that were not given. China had to play 60 with 10, and they end up getting the 1-0 win, which was big for them.
Yeah, and that last game that we actually covered we went to the mixed zone after the game. It was England-Haiti. It was hard to watch because, everyone wants the underdog, right? Everyone loves England, but everyone's got to go for the underdog story just because of how they played. And we even pointed out, it was like they just played with their heart, and got to talk to Corventina after. I have that video of you interviewing her, which is pretty cool. But, they were also short of a PK there too. There was a called PK, and the keeper jumped off her line and had to do a retake PK. Almost just felt mean, but it's how soccer goes every now and then. So then for them, again, to lose with something short of a PK, it's just kind of a...
Oh, no doubt. A bummer and a half. Brooke Evans, Luke Winstel joining us live from Brisbane here on Soccer Down Here on a Friday. Bam with a question for you, Brooke. Your thoughts on the country so far, and what has been the biggest surprise about Australia for you?
We're talking in terms of soccer or in general?
Let's go in general there. Thoughts on Australia as a country, and what's been the biggest surprise about the nation for you since you've been down there?
Okay. Australia's been just awesome. Like, I can't even find the words to say how amazing it's been. It's very similar to the United States in ways where it's like, if someone told me I had to pack all my bags and move here today, I would be like, I could do that. I could totally do that. But like, given like another foreign country, like a European country, I don't know if I could do that. Maybe it's language barrier, other things, but it's been awesome. We're up here in Brisbane, which has also been super cool. Given that I'm from Southern California, like, don't do very well in cold weather. So I remember leaving home from summer and I was like, oh no, like I have to go into the winter. Like, this is awful. I'm going to lose my tan. And then I get to Brisbane and I'm like, wait, okay, it's their winter and it's like 70 degrees and sunny every day. So it's been so cool. I think it's been amazing. And the biggest surprise about Australia, I don't know. Where would you go with that one?
Ooh.
Biggest surprise. I think it's honestly very surprising how welcoming everyone is. I'm a very social person. I think I could talk to a brick wall for hours if I wanted to. Like, I talk to anyone and everyone that I pass by, but like typically in the US, people put their face down in a phone. Here, everyone's just, it's not weird. Say hi to someone random on the street. I think that's pretty cool.
Okay.
Yeah. For me, I would say the friendliness of the people has been really intriguing. I would also say the walkability of the cities has been a big surprise. In Sydney, being able to walk, like there'd be times where we'd go and hang around downtown and it'd be later at night and just didn't really feel threatened at all because it was
Safe.
walkable, parks, open, safe. It
feels safe here.
Much different feeling than growing up like where we have in Atlanta and some of those areas. So to me, that was the biggest thing of you can walk anywhere. There's so many parks. There's so much nature. There's really an emphasis on, keeping those kept up. So I've been really surprised and impressed with that.
Yeah.
All right.
Thing too. It's kind of funny.
Well, and
well,
all right. And so, all right. So as we kind of go through the odds and ends here, we know what your weekend assignments are, and obviously, Luke, you've got golden ticket for Monday first thing because of the weekend. Obviously, we want to catch up with you on Monday. So Monday night, 11:05, there in the hotel, if I've got my math right. All right. So odds and ends before we go and get you guys off to your weekend of busy and working more than the rest of us. Okay. So, Luke, has Taft been located? Does he exist? Has he been located? Is he okay? Because he came on the show once and then he disappeared. Is Taft an actual person even?
Am I not good enough?
No, not my point. Not my point.
He's just gone anyway.
Taft is gone.
Rundown.
I was going to say Taft is like, Taft comes on once and then he disappears. Was Taft an actual person?
They're just AI in the background. You know how it is these days.
Yes, I do.
No, Taft has been fine. He's covered France tonight in the press conference because Ireland's been eliminated, so it's not been quite as easy on his beat. But he's covering France. We've got France-Brazil tomorrow, so all of us will be covering that. Taft has got to focus there, and then I think now he's kind of doing some spot assignments in Brisbane throughout. So he's doing well. He's been very busy, working very hard tonight. Working all night at the press conference. So big ups to him.
Right. That's what you want to call it. Working very busy on a Friday.
Very busy.
Very busy. All right. So, Brooke, let me ask you this.
Yes.
When we started our conversations with Luke, knowing full well that Luke was going to be shopping and doing a lot of it, we were trying to give him helpful hints about making sure that he didn't get the tag of shame coming home after group stage and after his trip is done. We suggested to Luke to ship ahead of you and just, go to DHL, put it in the box, ship it, and so that way you don't have to worry about it at the airport. How many folks have called you or texted you and said, hey, can you get me this? Can you get me this? Can you bring this home? How many folks have hit you up for gear since you've been down there?
Yeah, no, I've gotten it, especially because I grew up playing soccer. I played it all throughout high school. I have friends that are playing D1 in college and stuff. So it's a pretty big deal to my family and my friends that I'm here right now covering the World Cup. It's just, even myself, obviously, I'm like pinching myself every day that I'm here. But yeah, no, the demand is high. But like Luke said, like we are working. So it's honestly kind of hard to do. We're reporters here, right? You got to kind of have a objective standpoint. You can't really be fans. We got our beats, we got our teams, but
you still shop though.
We still shop, yeah, but it's kind of hard to do before the games.
Yeah,
you can't just grab a few shopping bags full of gear and walk into the press.
Into the press conference, and you got like 4 bags of fan merch. They're gonna give you a couple weird looks.
Yeah.
Waldron would help you out with one of those Nigeria kids.
Oh yeah, 1,000%. Yeah. But I can't walk in with that. But I know he's got my back. Mr. Randy and I we're tight. He gave me a follow today on Twitter.
There you go. That's how this works. And Bam says, how sexy are the Nigerian kits? They always have the best ones.
Oh no, I'm definitely going to ask Randy for a little fan merch after this because their kits are just awesome. I think they're the best ones on the field today or for this whole match, whole tournament. They're awesome. So sick.
And I think Bam, yes, Brooke did just chase summer between the U.S. and Australia. I think that's what she is doing. Bam wants to know, Luke, what your thoughts on the Australian currency, notes and coins. That's for both of you.
Yeah, I've gotten to know a little bit about the lobsters and the pineapples and those kinds of things. And, lobsters, the red bills, and pineapples, yellow. And really, I've learned a lot more about the Visa card, to be honest, since I've been here. And they do give you like a 5% discount at a lot of the FIFA stuff because they're Visa or 10% discount maybe.
10%.
Yeah.
A whole 10% on something that's super expensive to begin with. Who knew?
Well, if it's super expensive, then the 10% goes even further. So, no, my thoughts on the currency, it's a lot easier to rationalize purchases because if something's $100, you say, well, it's only 60 American, and then you feel better about it. So. I've done a lot of rationalizing with my scarf purchases. I'm not quite to your level back there, but I've got, I think.
Oh, yeah, look at those scarves back there.
Yeah, I think I've got maybe 6 that I'm bringing home and a couple are presents.
Oh, that's awesome.
So
yeah, I bought a bunch of that.
Yeah, that's been my thing, scarves and hoodies. And what I'll do is
that's awesome.
See.
I'm trying to get to that point.
I'm not there yet, but we will be. So I've been working on that. And that's, going to the Fan Fest when we're not working and going by and catching a game on the Jumbotron. Then
that's where the big shopping's going to happen.
And we don't have the credential on, so we're not working or anything. And it's just, okay, I think that's the way to do it. So.
All right. Continuing rapid fire here. Bam wants to know if Taft got picked up in Wolf Creek. I don't know what that means, but that's Bam trying to sit there and do inside baseball stuff about trying to get us all in trouble, which probably earned us a listen rate.
Yeah, I haven't heard about Wolf Creek. I know there's a lot to do in Fortitude Valley. I haven't discovered
there you
yet.
go. Bam also wants to know if you both have had a parmy or a meat pie.
How here, chicken parmy.
Yep.
That was an awful accent. Don't come for me for that one, Australians who are watching. The good old chicken parmy I have had, and I will say they're 10 out of 10.
Sweet.
I've been more the meat pie type personally.
The meat pies we had at that place the other day were awesome.
Yatla pies, I think is what we were told they're called. Yeah, the handmade and everything, incredible.
Yeah.
So, all right, and then Luke, you went and caught some footy before you came on with us today. How was that?
Oh, you saw the video?
No, I'm asking. I haven't seen the video yet. How was it?
Oh shit! Oh yeah. So
you're trying to get us the explicit rating. You were right there with it.
No, I said shoot. No. That was a shoot. So I went over. There's a Division III game going on that was maybe 20 minutes away, nice. And we have a friend that is Taft's friend that he met in Madrid, and his name is Gary. Shout out to Gary.
Gary.
He's awesome. Yeah. So
that doesn't enforce it. He's awesome.
Yeah. So Gary took Molly, one of our other reporters. She covers Brazil, and I over to watch. And then we went and kicked around. I posted a video. I'm not sure I was doing it right, but having some fun, kicking and learning about the different. Let's see, the passing. Yep. And
a little punch pass, like a kick.
Bouncing the ball has been a bit of a challenge, though, and I think we've gotten a lot better at that, of the bounce every 15 meters and learning the rules. And we went to the game to learn the rules because we're trying to pick teams and see who we should enjoy. And, that's –
all you got to do is ask me, dude. It's a guilty pleasure on FS2 on Fridays and Saturdays. I'm watching.
AFL?
Who have you got? Who's your team?
I just like seeing it. Probably from the old days. It was probably somebody like Hawthorne with Lethal Lee Matthews. So, like I said, that's your Google search for today. Lee Matthews, Hawthorne, old school stuff. Yeah.
I'm thinking Hawthorne, Crenshaw, out in California.
Exactly. Right there.
You know that.
Yep, I'm thinking Brisbane Lions.
Okay. See, now you're adopting the home city team. I get that. All right. So,
reason. Yeah.
I'm down with that. I understand where you're coming from. All right, Brooke Evans with like 75 S's at the end. It's just 3. At Brooke Evans on the Twitters, at Luke Winstel on the Twitters. Guys, thanks for hanging out with us. And once again, golden ticket status. I know, Luke, just text me and tell me who's going to be with you on Monday. If it's, once again, Brooke, if it's 9 of you there in the screen and we do like a fatal whip around or anything like that, just let me know. Text me in the middle of the night our time. Tell me who it's going to be, 9:05 on Monday morning. It'll be, once again, recapping everything in a group that is absolutely crazy right now. 1 point separating the top 3. Nigeria, Canada, 4 points. Australia with 3. Ireland, they could be a massive spoiler because they've got Nigeria on last match day on the 31st. Guys, thanks for hanging out with us late on a Friday night. Go collapse and make sure that everything makes slot, and we'll catch up with you guys at the beginning of next week. Thanks again, y'all.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Nice to meet you.
Good to see you. Brooke Evans, Luke Winstel, live from Brisbane. That's what it's like when you have folks who are live from Brisbane. Absolutely. And so Bam has done yeoman work and laid everything out. The Instagram thing with Luke, and now I'm going to click on it and see what happened here. But no, it's great to get those updates. It looks like it's a behind, or is that no? Did he get that? That looks okay. So, all right. So it looked like it might have snuck. Yeah, it looked like it did sneak in on the right upright. So with Luke's video, basically what you would do if you were the guy underneath the goalpost, you'd sit there and you'd go like that. It's a 6-pointer for Luke. So good stuff. Thank you, Bam, for doing that. And Bam, by the way, thank you for all of the questions to make Luke and Taft and Brooke feel at home and have them tell us about their experience down there. It's very, very cool that the University of Georgia is having a moment like this for 17 students, and the fact that we worked with Luke and we had that initial in, and it made sense to have Luke come on, but to be able to have other students come on from the University of Georgia to discuss what's going on and the experience of a lifetime for them. And so it's great to have them come on the show, bat and lead off on days when they're not working or days when they're not collapsed from having to file all the stories for the AP. So follow along on the Associated Press. You'll see a lot of bylines from Women's World Cup and their University of Georgia students. So very, very cool stuff there. Oh, that's a fun first segment on a Friday. Niko Moreno coming up in about 45 minutes. And we'll discuss what's going on in his mind when it comes to Leagues Cup and all these kinds of things. We've got news of the morning. We've got everything that's going on here on the planet. And I know that Tom had a question early on about one of the transaction that we saw yesterday involving two players joining Atlanta United 2. One of them was Chris Gloucester, and the other signing was Matias Gajardo. And the question from Tom for the floor was wondering if that there was something else that might have been tied to it with the signing of Matias Gajardo and Chris Gloucester. For those of you that missed it yesterday, the two signed Gajardo, 19-year-old, on a free transfer from River Plate. Attacking midfielder joined River Plate's academy back in 2014 when his father was named first-team manager. Worked his way through the academy, made his first-team debut as a second-half sub back in March. He's played with River Plate's reserve team the past couple of years. Chris Gloucester last played for NYC, 15 appearances in the 21 and 22 seasons. And so it is picking up Chris Gloucester. You pick up that contract from Major League Soccer, considering that he is still, it is a collective entity there when it comes to folks that are under contract. So bringing in Chris Gloucester at the age of 22 and trying to see if he can regain the form that he had early on in his career, where he was U17 World Cup, U20 World Cup in 2019, integral part for the U.S. in the CONCACAF U20s in 2018. And so we'll see what the timelines are for integrating Gloucester and Gajardo into the Atlanta United plans. But that was what happened yesterday during the show. Matias Gajardo, midfielder, defender, Chris Gloucester, they're going to be a part of the twos. Remainder of the 23 season for Gajardo. Gloucester is on loan from Major League Soccer, and the club has a team option on 24 for Gajardo. So we'll see what happens there. But I don't think that there's anything added to having Matias Gajardo. I don't think it necessarily means anything on Gajardo itself, on his dad. But once again, it's those relationships that you have with South American clubs where if you see someone that you feel might gain experience or help you out as well in that kind of a relationship, then you're going to pounce on somebody like Gajardo. I don't think it has anything to do necessarily with his father, but it's the relationships that you have worked on and culminated and that you've developed down there in South America, where you can go to River Plate and sit there and say, okay, well, he's on a free, but the history is there. And so, once again, you're looking in the South American footprint for players. So we'll see what it looks like with Matias Gajardo and Chris Gloucester coming into the fold for Atlanta United too. So that's in the other news. Thank you, Ricky. Tyler Young tore his ACL. He'll be out for the remainder of the season. Yes, we will be at the match. We will be at the training ground calling the match on the SDH Network. 15 minutes before kick, we will have pregame, and it's a pretty big match in division. It is 7:00 start, so 6:45 pregame, and Crew 2 right now at the top of the division in Next Pro, but earlier on this season, you'll remember that Atlanta United went to historic Crew Stadium, ended up going 90 minutes with a draw, but then losing in PKs. But you look at the standings right now, they've hung tough with Crew so far this year. A couple of familiar faces, Marco Micheletto, Coleman Gannon, that are attached to Crew 2. But right now in the division, as you look at things in the Central, Crew are at 34 points, Orlando City Bees at 33, and they're chasing after the top spot. But then there's this group, 4 teams separated by 4 points right now in the Central. Hunt City, Chicago Fire, both at 25. Points per game average is Huntsville's. They're right now 3rd in the division. Atlanta United 2's at 24 points. And FC Cincinnati is at 21 points. So there's an Inter Miami 2 is at 14 points for their first 19 matches. They've got a record of 4-13-2. So big opportunity for Atlanta United 2 tonight. With 24 points, they can get some hopscotching done and get closer to Crew. But right now in the division, it's Crew and Orlando City that are a point away from each other, 34 points and 33. And right now in the conference, as you look at playoff positioning right now, Atlanta United 2 is in 10th, but once again, they're a win out of 7th. Crew right now are in 3rd, but they've got OCB and Red Bulls chasing them. So there's a lot of activity still as we're here in the second half of the season. A lot of hopscotching is going to happen, so you're going to have to pay attention to the league on a weekly basis. And yes, the game will be on MLS Season Pass as well. But we will have the broadcast for you, 6:45 pregame for a 7:00 kick tonight on the SDH Network, and it'll be fun once again to see Atlanta United 2 in action. Thanks to everybody who listens to us on the SDH Network when it comes to giving the twos road and a road home and a home. There you go, from the Department of Redundancy Department. So there you go. Very, very cool to be able to do that this season and call the games of the twos. But yeah, Tyler Young tore his ACL, out for the remainder of the year. And when he was drafted out of Campbell, you'll remember that we had folks from don't know the official terminology, David, when it comes to I don't know the official terminology, but it was just shifted. That's what the team has said. They've shifted it, and so that's where we are, just basically at face value. With Tyler Young, when he was drafted, he was one of the leading scorers in the conference that Campbell was in, Player of the Year in the Big South. And what Atlanta United saw in him was that scoring ability, but the thought that he could help them out at the back. And you were seeing his development as a left back all season long. And he was really getting into that rhythm of being a left back and being there with what the team wanted. The team saw in him, and Tyler was catching on to that new position for him. And so it's really disappointing that you're having that happen to Tyler, because he was learning as much as he was, and that now that he's going to be out for the remainder of the season. So, David, official wording from the club, from Kennesaw, from Atlanta United 2. Due to a field quality issue at Fifth Third Bank Stadium, the Twos announced that the match has been moved to the Children's Healthcare of Atlanta training ground. Match is going to kick off at 7, and it'll be on Season Pass on Apple TV. Match will be played behind closed doors, not open to the public. Fans who purchase tickets to the match will be refunded in 48 to 72 business hours. So field quality issue, Fifth Third Bank. So there you go. That's your official. That's the official word from the club. Do they do Next Pro? Yes, they do. They do the 3 points for a win, 2 points for a shootout win. And so there's no, you do get 1 point if you lose the shootout. So that's your 1 point. So yeah, it is, David, the 3-2-1-0 when it comes to Leagues Cup format for penalty ones. We'll talk about Leagues Cup in hour number 2, because we had moments in Leagues Cup last night. And when you get I know it does. David's talking about, Hutch is talking about what's going on now that I feel like I need to get that ZZ Top drop. I heard it on the X, so I'll probably will get that and add that to the stacks. But yeah, it does look like it's weird. Late Friday morning, Rich. But yeah, and the thing is that now it's funny when you're looking at particular, it's like, all right, so on my phone, and I guess this is opening kickoff, presented by our friends at Kickoff Coffee, kickoffcoffeeco.com. There's your QR code for those of you who are watching on Twitch. Let me put the Eliminize sign back, because we got to read that promo in about 10 minutes. But the funny thing is now, with what's going on, once again, thanks to everybody who has invested in Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. Don't forget to use the code SoccerDownHere15 to get 15% off your purchase. They in turn take 10%, reinvest it into youth initiatives. Very, very cool stuff from our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. So I don't know about your phone, but the apps that I have, they're listed. You go to your app section on your phone, and it's listed in alphabetical order. And so traditionally, I'm trying to, see what's going on. It's like, I want to look at something on, the Bird app, And so as I'm scrolling alphabetically, I knew where it was on my phone in the apps. And then I look in the T's and it's not there. And I'm thinking to myself, where did it go? Where did the Twitter thing go? And then I have to remember that I've got to continue scrolling alphabetically to find it, because it's the letter X and it's not the letter T. I know it's just a couple of letters further down, but it's just that whole idea of knowing that your phone had everything alphabetical for you, and you have to continue scrolling further down the alphabet to figure things out. And so now that I see all of these notifications of, the letter that currently runs the 280 character app, it's like, okay, so what do I need to fix? What do I need to fix? What do I need to fix? And it ends up being a phone thing as opposed to anything else. So yeah, I didn't know if you guys were just as confused as I was because of the new lettering of the 280 character app and trying to sit there and figure out what to do and where it is and all that kind of stuff. And Abby says it kills what her screen looks like. So we'll see. Ricky says August 9th is the next scheduled home match. Wonder what we'll see in terms of fixes. Ricky, you're still on the 280 character app. You still have birds. That's interesting, because mine instantly converted over, and so I'm seeing X marks all over the place, and the alphabetical shifted it from T to X. So of course, once again, we're talking my phone and me and technology and everything. So anything, Hutch is updated overnight, but no, it's odd to sit here and go, okay, well, I feel like Christopher Walken, you still have birds on your app. Man, Rich, you guys are better off than I am. But no, it's like I have to search to X now. And so that's where it's just very, very odd to have to sit there. And then we all know, because of the copyright alleged infringements, that the X is going to have to end up being something else very, very quickly. And so then we're going to have everything updated and rearranged all over again. It's like Seinfeld. You're in, you're out, you're in. It's like, come up with something and fix it, So, great. So that's what you're staring at with the 280 character app. The X, Sharif, the Bird app, the 280 characters. And we'll get into that in a sec, Rich. The 280 character app, which is confusing me because my apps load alphabetically. Or in the app section, they're listed alphabetically, and I'm used to searching in the T's, and all of a sudden I have to go further down, and I'm like, where is this? It's down in the X's. So just the general confusion about the new look of the 280 character app. That's what it was. Yeah, it's like I said, we're in opening kickoff because we spent the first 40 minutes of the show with our friends down in Australia talking about the Women's World Cup, our friends at the University of Georgia. So I kind of slid the opening kickoff to now. And it's just my confusion having to deal with the 280 character app. But yeah, that's the opening kickoff. Brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee, kickoffcoffeeco.com. Don't forget to use the code soccer down here for 15. You get 15% off your purchase. Thanks to everyone who has. They take 10% reinvested into the youth games and youth initiatives. Very, very cool stuff from our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. When it comes to Hutch will get into Leagues Cup, especially. You see, now I'm getting updates, I'm getting notifications. And it's, I'm getting my two X's, and I'm getting all of my stuff that's squared away. It's just very, very weird. All right, we got some Women's World Cup breaking news here. Let me see if it's listed in the. Let me see if it's listed in particular sections. Okay, so yeah, it is. So we'll go here. And it happened during our conversation in Australia. So we will try to work the fanciness here and get everything squared away and hit this. Word out of Canada from our friends at TSN. Canada's women's national team players released a statement Friday announcing an interim agreement with Canada Soccer and disappointment in the state of negotiations. Canada entered the Women's World Cup without a collective bargaining agreement in place with Canada Soccer. Women's national team, and once again, this is the phrasing from our friends at TSN. Women's national team's been embattled in a dispute with Canada Soccer over pay equity issues and budget cuts. Janine Becky said in February the players demanded the same 2023 budget that the men's national team had at the 2022 Men's World Cup in Qatar. Players also wanted details about how that money was spent, how their budgets compare to the national men's team, and how money generated from hosting the 2015 Women's World Cup has been spent. They released a statement. Statement is as follows from our friends at Canada. On Monday, July 24, we reached an interim agreement with Canada Soccer to provide compensation for our team for 2023, including prize money allocation from the FIFA Women's World Cup. As the extent of Canada's soccer financial constraints have been revealed, we have been forced to choose between compensation and the funding required to hold necessary training camps. We have been forced to choose between receiving a fair share of the rewards from our team's successes at World Cups and our commitment to equal pay and equal treatment with our men's national team. These are choices we should not have had to make. We are deeply disappointed to find ourselves without a more complete agreement at this crucial stage in the calendar. While there are many important items remaining for future negotiation with Canada Soccer, we have worked with Canada Soccer to make sure this interim compensation agreement ensures, at minimum, equal pay with our men's national team within the constraints created by Canada Soccer's financial situation, and we have been through that. Follow at Players Canadian if you want to continue to keep an eye on this on a daily basis. This isn't over, they say. We and the men's national team remain committed to finding a long-term solution that provides for fair and equal treatment for our current national teams and investments in the future of Canadian soccer. But for now, our team just wants to focus on soccer. We want to thank our loyal supporters, teams, players around the world who have stood with us, and the men's national team for their continued support of our team. Sincerely, the women's national team players. So that came out within the hour. So there is an interim agreement where we are. So Bam says, so what I'm hearing is Canada won't turn up to the game on Monday. They'll turn up. They're just not happy. And they have a stopgap agreement in place when it comes to wages. And so we'll find out how that goes to forward. Rich, only people that have been paid are the lawyers. That's not wrong. Michael Head, when is Microsoft going to sue over the X, or has a payment already been negotiated? Haven't seen anything involving a payment about the X yet to Microsoft, but but think about it. Current state of affairs at the 280-character app, would you trust anything financially? Just saying. Just thinking out loud. Rich mentions his Ocean City Nor'easters, and that is part of the playoffs. When you're in the conference finals, you're in the round of 8 in USL League 2. We'll have a bit of a preview coming up in just later on today, this afternoon. 3 o'clock start for Ballard and Ventura County Fusion. The Villages and Little Rock Rangers. We'll hear from Trent Oscola from Little Rock. That's at 5 o'clock at Town Bank. The nightcap, 7:30, Lions Bridge and Ocean City Nor'easters. We'll catch up with Mike Vest from Lions Bridge. Flint City and Des Moines at Atwood is your nightcap at 7:30. Flint City Bucks and Des Moines Menace. So those are your 4 matchups, the conference finals. That'll get you into the Final Four after this week in USL League 2. You'll hear from Little Rock and Lions Bridge. That'll be up early this afternoon as a part of our coverage. Also, NPSL's in the Final Four, and we'll catch up with Jarrett and find out about Apotheos, and also in the Final Four in the NPSL, we catch up with our friends from Crossfire out west. Bill Colello is part of that discussion. So we'll get you caught up on conference finals in USL League 2 and in the NPSL for their action in the Final Four. Those shows will be up later today. Once again, remember, 6:45, your pregame tonight in the SDH Network for Atlanta United 2 and Columbus Crew 2. So busy day on the network. So it appears, according to Ricky, Yunus Musa, according to Fabrizio Romano, heading to Milan, USA. Oh, goodness. All right. So Fabrizio Romano this morning, let's see how far off this was. 7 minutes ago, Manchester United negotiating with Atalanta for Rasmus Højlund. Direct talks ongoing. Højlund says been clear he wants to go to United. PSG started contacts to potentially activate Ousmane Dembele's release clause of $50 million. So we'll keep an eye on that. Barcelona want to extend Dembele's contract, currently expiring in June of 24. Understand the release clause is $100 million available during the year, $50 million available in July of 23. The final decision is up to the player. Sadio Mane and Al Nassr apparently is a matter of time. Deal getting closer, deal being finalized with all parties involved. So keep an eye on Sadio Mane. Steffi Mavididi is going to complete a medical as signing as a new Leicester player. So there you go. There you go, Knicks. Mavididi is going to complete a medical sign as a new Leicester player. €7.5 million plus a sell-on clause between the clubs. Al Ittihad and Liverpool closing in on the Fabinho deal. He's been authorized to travel for the first part of the medical with Al Ittihad as expected. Liverpool waiting to check documents and go from there. Danilo joins Rangers on a 5-year deal from Feyenoord. So we know that Jarrett will be keeping an eye on that as well. The picture has been taken. Riyad Mahrez joins Al Ahly on a permanent transfer for $30 million. Contract is until June of 2027. The deal is finally sealed. And so, yeah, the picture does exist with him holding up the jersey with the front office. So Al Ahly and Riyad Mahrez. We mentioned the Daniel Levy meeting with Bayern. The Bayern board, initially planned for today, now has been rescheduled. It's going to take place early next week. The Kane deal remains at the same stage for the week. And this was the Yunus Musa conversation that we were having with Ricky. Fabrizio understands AC Milan closing in on a Yunus Musa deal, agreement imminent as all parties are getting closer. Final details are being clarified. Musa pushing to join AC Milan for days after personal terms were agreed a month ago. The deal's at the final stages. And according to Fabrizio, here we go soon. So we'll keep an eye on that. Let's see. Hutch. What beat up Chivas worse last night, the weather or Brandon Vasquez? By the way, the remainder of that match is going to be played at 2 o'clock this afternoon. So keep an eye on that. I imagine that it's going to be on Apple TV in front of friends and family. So 2 o'clock, they will play the completion of that match with FC Cincinnati and Chivas. David, with our Canada discussion, Canada gave all their money to Hockey Canada, settle the abuse scandals most likely. Well, and the way that Canada's they are, and Rich has said that's definitely not what happened. Seems Canada national programs are being run into the dumpster. The biggest issue involving the funding is the relationship with Canada soccer business. And like I said, what I would do is I would recommend following Rick Westhead from TSN and CTV on Twitter, because he has been at the forefront of all of this. The way that this relationship is with corporate sponsors, the men's national team, the women's national team, and Canada Soccer Business, Canada Soccer Business pays a flat fee to Canada Soccer. For all of the advertising revenue that comes in, Canada Soccer gets a flat fee of about $3.5 million. And the way that the agreement was structured, and I want to get this right, so I want to make sure that everybody knows that the direction of all of this. But the relationship with Canada Soccer Business, and I'll go back to the Westhead piece from 3 days ago, where the men's national soccer team Players Association has been for a year they have yet to reach a collective bargaining agreement, a collective labor agreement with Canada Soccer. This is how contentious it is. Canada Soccer and the Canada Men's National Soccer Team Players Association. The Players Association is demanding sponsors of the Federation and Canada Soccer Business stop using name, image, and likeness of men's national team players in their marketing and advertising. That's where this is right now. Statement back earlier this week. Instead of working toward a solution, given the current state of Canada Soccer, we've been taken to task for raising these concerns and told we have an inflated view of ourselves. Canada Soccer is now also attempting to capitalize on the pressure of the Women's World Cup to force us into an inadequate deal. Men's Players Association confirmed the timing of the statement was discussed with the women's national team player representatives. Players Association shared their perspective in a 2-page statement on a labor impasse that's dragged on for more than a year, and again condemned Canada Soccer's controversial media and sponsorship agreement with CSB, which was signed in 2018 and will be in place through 2037 if CSB decides to extend an initial 10-year deal. CSB, here's the dynamic for Canada Soccer and how wild this is and how profoundly disappointing it is. And it's a great deal. I mean, it's a great deal if you can get it. Great deal if you can get it. CSB, Canada Soccer Business, pays Canada Soccer an annual fee of between $3 and $4 million. And in exchange, the private company, which is owned and controlled by Canadian Premier League team owners, receives all of the revenue from the national team media rights and sponsorships with 15 companies, including Nike, CIBC, Gatorade, GE, and Visa. The contract, first publicly detailed in July of last year. Standing Committee on Canadian Heritage hearings in Ottawa on Parliament Hill over this. Members of Parliament have repeatedly pressed Canada Soccer for answers. This is Rick Westhead still. About why the organization handed away such valuable rights for 20 years at a time, particularly after Canada had agreed in April 2017 to join the U.S. and Mexico in the joint bid to host the 26th World Cup. Canada Soccer negotiated the deal in late 2017 at a time when many in the media reported U.S. Canada Soccer were favorites. Despite repeated public assurances from Canada soccer officials, CSB had agreed to, quote, modernize, end quote, their contract. Modernize was the word they used. It's unclear to Westhead if tangible offers to retool the contract have been presented. The men's national team players also wrote in their statement, Canada Soccer has backed out of previous contract offers, including one made by former Federation President Nick Bontis on March 9. Canada Soccer now claims it cannot honor the March 9 offer or any others because they were made without the approval of the board of directors or the chief financial officer. Players wrote, quote, disturbing facts given that at the time Canada Soccer was already the subject of the federal government's scrutiny and continues to be subject to a federal financial audit. Players wrote, Canada Soccer has demanded the men's national team players agree to reduce their per-game compensation by as much as 75%, and that the Federation wants to keep about 70% of the prize money Canada Soccer is set to receive for qualifying for the World Cup in Qatar and the World Cup in Australia and New Zealand. The players wrote that their latest offer to Canada Soccer would see the Federation retain between $8.9 and $14.1 million from the prize money from those two tournaments. Players wrote, it's time for all responsible parties to come to the table to resolve this on the basis of sustainability, equity, fairness, and transparency. Interim Secretary for Canada Soccer, Jason DeVos, confirmed the Federation faces a financial crisis. Back in June, he confirmed finances have worsened to the point that both senior national teams may not play in international windows this fall, and the organization may eventually need to contemplate filing for bankruptcy protection. DeVos subsequently said Canada Soccer is not currently contemplating bankruptcy. Even with public funding, federal government provided the Fed $5 million in 22. Canada Soccer burned through more than $4 million last year. Cash reserves plunged to $2.4 million at the end of 2022, down from $7.1 million a year earlier. Back in May, the sports minister ordered an independent audit of the Federation, citing a lack of financial transparency. So this is a mess and a half. That's where Canada is right now. David, who has jurisdiction on this, FIFA at all? Can they suspend the Federation? Not that FIFA is doing the right thing, is likely. I don't know if you can suspend a federation or that you would want to, something of the international import of Canada. But I think you don't want it to get to the FIFA level, and I think that's why you have all of the government interest in it right now. But when you have Canada Soccer basically said, tell you what, we'll take the bird in the hand, and if it's $3 to $4 million, okay, cool. But it appears, and once again, this is a fantastic piece of business by Canadian Soccer Business, because once again, that's owned by the Canadian Premier League owners, and they need revenue to prop up that league and get it to grow. But like I said, fantastic piece of business by Canadian Soccer Business, but it is not looking out for the national team programs, men's or women's, at all. Great piece of business by the CPL owners who own Canadian Soccer Business, who basically told the national team, tell you what, we'll get these deals for you. We'll pay you a flat fee, and we keep the overage. Canada Soccer apparently was cool with that. And now you see the mess they're in. And if they renew this deal because they're halfway through it right now, if they renew this deal in 2020 or whenever they're supposed to renew it, 2027, you're getting close to the end of the deal, you need to see some riders in there. You need to see some adjustments in the percentages to help out the men's and women's games in Canada. But the fact on the men's side, the men have basically said, stop using our name, image, and likeness to promote your products because we're not getting compensated, and the men's national team and the women's national team are not able to perform and even train at even levels. That's where we are with Canada. It's a mess. So we'll keep an eye on that. But yeah, when the men's national team basically says as a player, per player, stop using our name, image, and likeness, that's not good for your national team status. It's a bum deal. And right now that's what Canada has. So we'll see how the negotiations continue. Interim deal was why we started this conversation. Interim deal involving the women's national team, but far from being complete. The women's national team players are obviously continuing their being outspoken about the whole thing. So interim deal in place as of the 9 o'clock hour with the women's national team, but it is far from being over when it comes to all of those particular elements. Niko Moreno coming in 15 minutes. Leagues Cup last night. When was the last time that you saw a goalie take a PK before the 11th round of a PK shootout? Well, we had that last night. And it was absolutely crazy. Last night's results. So, of course, you go to one particular location, and it's not listed by day. You had the matches last night in Leagues Cup. You sit there, and it's like, I just want to read the results. That's all I want to do. I want to read the results. So, 5 matches tomorrow. We'll get into the juice boxes and that in just a little bit. Last night, Club America took care of St. Louis City FC, SC. All Caps got pounded at home 4-0. And I think that if you look at the tape of this one, folks might have found St. Louis City out. Club America had speed, goal by Henry Martin early on, 1-0 at the break. They scored 3 in the second half. Club America got a 4-0 win. Worked the middle, worked over the top. Speed beat the back line. It was a long night for Tim Parker. Club America got a win 4-0 in the home of all Caps. Chicago Fire go to Minnesota United. Frank Klopas beats Adrian Heath last night at a plus 347. 3-2 win for the Chicago Fire over Minnesota. Then the crazier one of all of it, Toluca and Nashville SC at Geodis. Toluca and Nashville SC. And you had a keeper taking a penalty in the middle of the second half to kind of shift that really pulled momentum away from Nashville. Toluca got the win 4-3 at a plus 249. And we mentioned the FC Cincinnati Chivas match. Abandoned with about 30 to go. That one's going to pick back up at 2 o'clock this afternoon. So that's where we are with Leagues Cup. Going over the standings in the groups. Once again, Portland's in the barn in Group 1. Portland's in the barn with 3 points. Tigres and San Jose. Tigres could win the group. Or if San Jose wins, it turns into chaos. Group 2, RSL's in the barn at 3 points. Monterrey plays the Sounders. We'll catch up with Niko and find out about Leagues Cup coming up in just a little bit. Group 3, Leon has clinched. Vancouver and the Galaxy are playing for second. Group 4, St. Louis City's eliminated. No points in their first 2 matches. So it'll come down to the matchup between Club America and Crew, figuring out who's the 1, who's the 2. Group 5, Minnesota's in the barn with 3 points. Chicago can win the group if they beat Puebla. Or even if they just get, honestly, if they get a result against Puebla, they win the group. They get a point with a draw. They win in the shootout. They win the group. So Chicago Fire needs 1 point to win their group. Puebla wins, it goes into chaos. Sporting Kansas City, Cincinnati tied in the day with 1 match played. Once again, Chivas was trailing. Cincinnati could really distance themselves, put themselves in a good condition to win the group with a win today, around 2:45 or so. Group 7, Toluca. Nashville's in the barn with 3 points. Toluca plays Rapids. Rapids win, that goes to math. Toluca gets a result in any kind, they win the group. Group 8. Mazatlan clinch that group. Austin and Juarez will determine who advances as the second team in that group. Group 9, Houston is in the barn with 3 points. Orlando City and Santos Laguna play to figure out who's going to be the second team out of that group. Santos Laguna wins, then it's them and the Dynamo. Orlando City wins, it's them and the Dynamo. Group 10, Inter Miami clinched that group. Cruz Azul, Atlanta United. We know it's going to be a Texas death match because Tuca Ferretti's job is on the line. Bottom line is we'll see how Atlanta United responds. How do you respond in this one? It is an elimination game in a tournament at home against a team that is dead last in Liga MX in the Aperture after the first 3 matches. They've only scored 1 goal. They've given up 6. Lost 2-1 to Inter Miami to start Leagues Cup. They're in an elimination game. Atlanta United's in an elimination game. Word out of Mexico is Tuca Ferretti is fired if he loses this match. Group 11, Dallas is in the barn at 4 points. Charlotte and the Coxa determine who is the second team out of that group. Charlotte wins. Then, obviously, they win the group. Charlotte draws. Then they advance. Charlotte wins in a shootout, then there's math involved. Group 12, as Rich Ransom mentioned yesterday. Philadelphia clinches 2 wins out of the blocks. Tijuana and Querétaro will play to figure out who's going to be the second team out of that group. Group 13, CF Montreal's there at 2 points. DC United and Pumas play to figure out who is going to either join them or not join them. Pumas wins, it's them. And DC United. Montreal goes home. DC United gets a result. It's DC United and CF Montreal. Group 14, NYC and Atlas both have 3 points. NYC is done. They're waiting for Atlas and Toronto. Toronto gave up 5 to NYC. Toronto doesn't want to be there. You can tell. They're done. They don't want anything to do with it. Atlas and Toronto play on the weekend. When the result of that one will determine what happens. Atlas gets a result in 90 minutes. They win the group. And then Revs, Red Bulls, and Atletico San Luis. Atletico San Luis got pounded by Revolution in their first match. They've got some work to do. Red Bulls are playing Atletico San Luis, and San Luis needs to win to advance. Red Bulls need a result to advance. Revolution right now at 4 points. So that's where you are with your Leagues Cup standings. Juice boxes going into tomorrow's matches. Atlanta's favored at a plus 120. No real surprise. It's at home. Necaxa at 7:30 is a big dog facing Charlotte. Charlotte's a plus 106. Santos Laguna, a dog. Orlando City's a plus 116. Austin and Juarez. Austin is a minus 115 as that entire group has been played at Q2. They are big favorite against Juarez, who's a plus 290. 9 o'clock, Pumas and DC United. DC United obviously is favored at a plus 131. Sunday, you got your 6 matches. You got 4 more on Monday. We'll get to the Mondays on Monday. 7:30, Atlas is favored against Toronto FC. Toronto FC is basically a plus 200. Tijuana, even money plus 100 against Querétaro. Red Bulls a minus 161 against Atletico San Luis. No surprise. LA Galaxy is a minus 111 going up against Vancouver, who's a plus 242. Monterrey, slight favorite on Sunday against Seattle. Like I said, Niko's coming up in about 5 minutes. We'll talk to him about that there. Tigres and Earthquakes. Tigres is favored at a plus 146, and the Earthquakes are a plus 163. Gossip, rumor, and innuendo, and what you need to watch and where you need to watch it. Gossip for today. PSG believes they're also in the mix to sign Harry Kane if Tottenham choose to sell. Manchester United holding talks with Fiorentina over Sofian Amrabat while they work on getting Fred out of the club. RB Leipzig set a deadline of August 12th when they play in the German Super Cup for Manchester City to complete a move for defender Josko Vardy. All that's from the 4-letter paper. Take the information at your own peril. Nigeria striker Victor Osimhen is in talks with Napoli about extending his contract with the Italian champs. Chelsea suffered a blow in the transfer market. We talked about it a little bit yesterday with Nick, with Dybala set to sign a new contract with Roma. Bayern are now interested in David Raya and David De Gea. So I guess if you're Bayern, you need to be a keeper named David or David. Verratti close to completing a move to Al Hilal from PSG. That's from Fabrizio Romano. Ajax's Mohamed Kudus has expressed a strong preference for joining Arsenal over Chelsea. Chelsea have had a bid worth up to £24 million rejected for Montpellier striker Eli Wahi. Blues are considering making a move for Romeo Lavia after their £80 million bid for Moises Caicedo was rejected. Brighton is looking for something in the neighborhood of 100. Fulham have made a bid to sign Chelsea's Callum Hudson-Odoi for £4 million. That's from Fabrizio Romano. Don't know if you saw this picture. James was on a plane set to join his 10th club. He's on his way to being a part of the Kai Kamara Frequent Flyer Club. 3-letter paper says he's on his way to signing a deal with Sao Paulo Football Club. Former Villa midfielder Arjen Reiki is close to signing a deal with Leicester City. So it's a busy day for Knicks. Knicks might be getting 2 players. And then French club Lyon have asked Southampton about the availability of Douye Kaleta-Carr, their center back. That's also from the 4-letter paper. Take that information at your own peril. Looking at our friends at Sky, going through the papers there. And once again, remember, we'll go over Women's World Cup 2 before we get into Niko, Argentina, South Africa, 2-2 draw. England over Denmark, 1-0. And we talked about China and Haiti. Kira Walsh forced off with a knee injury for England. Serena Wiegman says that she is concerned. So we'll keep an eye on that. Mars has completed the move. Jordan Henderson has joined Al Ettifaq. Mbappe is not interested in even meeting with Al Hilal after the £257 million world record bid is out there. Man United's optimistic about Rasmus Højlund and signing that one. Luton have confirmed the arrival of Ryan Giles from Wolves. News the signing while simultaneously unveiling their new away shirt, which actually looks pretty cool. De Zerbi and Lewis Dunk at Brighton say they both hope that Moises Caicedo stays after that £80 million bid has gone away and has been turned down. So you got that. And once again, avoiding the 3 and the 4-letter papers as we do. Johnny Evans and Joe Hugel will remain in and around first team at Manchester United as Erik ten Hag looks to ensure his staff is well stocked. Remember, we talked about being a keeper named David. They're trying to find somebody to compete with Manuel Neuer ahead of Jan Sommer's impending move to Inter Milan. Daily Telegraph, Wolves manager Julian Lopetegui's made his frustration felt after he was informed about the club's financial situation, which could limit their ambitions this season. Ben Foster consoled Nathan Bishop in the Manchester United dressing room after learning how distraught the keeper was over his challenge in the Paul Mullen incident. We'll keep an eye on that. Once again, avoiding the 4-letter paper. Andre Onana's agent has revealed, according to the Daily Express, the keeper turned down approaches from Chelsea and Spurs to reunite with Erik ten Hag at Manchester United. And we mentioned Josko Vardiol. And the deadline that's attached, or if they don't meet that deadline, they're going to have to wait 12 months when that £96 million release clause kicks in. So act now in the next 2 weeks, or it's $100 million for you. Also, Evening Standard, Tottenham will face no Premier League punishment should Joe Lewis be found guilty after facing insider trading charges in the United States. Luis Suarez's move to Inter Miami to join his teammates has collapsed after Gremio coach Renato Portaluppi confirmed he'll be staying at least until January. Chelsea face a decision over whether to continue trying to drive down the price for Caicedo or include Levi Colwill to see if they can have something of a make-weight there. Lautaro Martinez said he is disappointed by Romelu Lukaku. And we talked about what Lukaku did yesterday and his behavior. That has not gone over well with teammates, former or present. Manchester Evening News, Kyle Walker has refused to respond to questions from reporters about Bayern Munich amid speculation he could move to the Bundesliga. Rasmus Højlund said to be flattered by interest from PSG in his services, but the striker has his heart set on going to Manchester United. Manchester City have identified Crystal Palace's Michael Olise as a possible replacement for Riyad Mahrez, which is interesting. Daily Record. Borussia Mönchengladbach sporting director Roland Virkus has played down their interest in Fabian Rieder, which could leave an opening for Celtic this summer. Rangers will demand and this is when Jarrett comes on the next time I want to talk to him about this. Rangers will demand an allocation of 700 tickets for the derby at Parkhead in December, even though Celtic have rejected the offer of the same amount for the Ibrox clash in September. I want to talk to him about that. And Scottish papers, former Hamilton academical owner Ronnie McDonald revealed he was having to find £2 million a season just to keep the team afloat. That's never good news when you hear stuff like that. What to watch and where to watch it. Pipe. I'll know about the early wake-up calls this morning, FS2 tonight. Your Canada soccer business folks, they're in business. They're Canadian Premier League, Forge in Vancouver at 7 o'clock. Liga MX Femenil on Fox Deportes at 9. Santos Laguna, Guadalajara. MLS season pass tonight, Next Pro. Once again, Twos and Crew, Real Monarchs, Houston Dynamo. That's at 10 o'clock. On the Plus, Bundesliga B, Hamburg and Schalke's at 2:30, a friendly with Real Betis and Burnley's at 1:30, NWSL Challenge Cup. Paramount Plus, that is Washington and Gotham at 7, OL Reign in San Diego at 10. A men's friendly is a part of the Premier League Summer Series tonight, Brighton and Newcastle. That one is at 7:30. Tomorrow, Women's World Cup, France, Brazil at 6, Panama and Jamaica is at 8:30. FS1, Sweden and Italy is on at 3:30 with the Women's World Cup. FS2, tomorrow night, Ottawa and Cavalry is at 7 o'clock. Men's friendly on NBC, big NBC at 2:45, Chelsea and Fulham. ESPN Deportes has Augsburg and Ajax in a friendly. Other friendlies on Fox Deportes in the morning, and the Guatemalan League for you hardcores. That's at 10 o'clock Saturday night. Telemundo has your simulcast of Women's World Cup as well as Peacock. Tuda NA has Leagues Cup with Cruz Azul in Atlanta, 7 o'clock, so 7:09 start at Mercedes-Benz. Pumas and DC United's at 8:30. Univision has the simulcast. Season Pass has 6 matches in Season Pass, 4 matches in MLS Next Pro going on in and around that matchup. On the Plus, all your matchups in USL League One, USL Championship. Check your times, check your providers. A couple of friendlies. Bundesliga B is at 2:30 on Saturday afternoon. Fox Soccer Plus has Canadian Premier League action, Valor and Pacific. Paramount Plus, wall-to-wall. Argentine Primera, they've got 4 matchups on Saturday, 6 in the Brasileiro on Saturday. NWSL Challenge Cup, they've got 4 there as well. And we mentioned Peacock is your simulcaster for all of that activity. Once again, don't forget, Fanatis, fntz.co/soccer down here for all of your action that is going on. And what you can do there, you can watch all of the BN networks. You can watch For the Fans. You can watch Gold TV. You can watch TC. You can watch all of that action in one place. Fanatis, fntz.co/soccer down here. Helps the network out, helps out Fanatis with subscribers, helps out the our friends here at the network as well. So very, very cool stuff with our friends at Fanatis. So once again, waiting for Niko Moreno to hang out with us. He was otherwise occupied yesterday, and so it's always good to be able to catch up with Niko on a weekly basis, so we can sit there and find out what is on his mind when it comes to everything going on in and around the planet. We're going to talk Leagues Cup. We're going to talk what he thinks about what's going on around the world, and what he thinks about Leagues Cup, what he thinks about Seattle and what's going on there. So as promised, here's the man to wrap up the week. It is Thursdays with Niko on a Friday. And what cup of coffee are we on, sir?
Second cup of coffee today. What's going on, everybody? Happy to be on. Lots to talk about. It's been a fantastic week. Leagues Cup has been anything short of amazing, really, in terms of entertainment, at least. it was just, I think, that the Messi effect to get things started right off the bat, and now we're down to closing down the group stage of this Leagues Cup, and man, it's just been lots of goals, lots of fun.
Yeah, so let's talk Leagues Cup. And what was your initial, and depending on the individual, you're either hot or cold about Leagues Cup. You either like it or you don't. You know, you've either got the bandwidth, you've got the channels, the devices, you've got that availability, you're ready for it. I know a lot of folks are mad about breaking up the MLS season with a month where you're focusing on Leagues Cup. When you saw Leagues Cup coming, what was your initial thought of the tournament?
I liked it. I mean, I've said it multiple times in various shows that, yes, you can look at it as a money grab. You can look at it as something that perhaps it's kind of being forced around in general senses because of that desire to get these two leagues which kind of run the CONCACAF together. But the entertainment value, that the soccer level, what's going to do for you in learning from both as a MLS teams, right? And I'll tell you what they've been learning here in a second. And then MX in their own way, also learning from other styles, playing different competition, playing some really good level soccer players. So in that sense, it also helps the level of soccer. And then from a fan standpoint, you're globalizing both leagues. You're globalizing the stage, right? Because in this one, MLS has done a little bit for Liga MX, having Busquets and Messi, right? So everybody's looking at these games. So I've always thought that it was going to be an important tournament for both leagues.
When you look at how things are going from a local perspective, I know that we went into the standings, and there's a big match against Monterrey coming up on the weekend. What has been the overall thought pattern about the early returns for Seattle? Because, I mean, right now in the group, Seattle's looking up at everybody, and that's not something that folks there want to see. You've got one match to go. It's the match against Monterrey to determine whether you're advancing or not. I mean, it's got to be a big moment and a big thought pattern for the fans there in Seattle.
Yeah, no one's happy. No fan is completely happy. Some are beyond angry, and I've done a lot of DMing. I've done a lot of posting on various groups of fans. But the reality is this one. I mean, yes, this Sounders team got absolutely run off the field by RSL at RSL. They looked out of sorts. They looked out of sync. They were outdueled, outplayed. But you have to understand that this team has had a really, really rough time trying to get one starting 11 consistently on the field. And that has minimized the effectiveness of a lot of players. And as Sounder fans in general, and let me talk to you guys, Sounder fans, if you guys are out here looking, immortality has a price. And you're paying for it. In MLS, for you to be able to do what Seattle did from 2016 to 2022, being not just a contender, but a consistent finalist in MLS Cups, getting 2 titles, being the one and only team in MLS that will ever win CCL necessarily, because that format has changed now. So, there you have it. In order to do that, you got to suffer at some point. I mean, you maximize your cap space, you maximize everything, because in sports, what you're trying to do is get the best collective group of players once in a lifetime. And then you maximize that to achieve everything you can. Whenever you get that golden generation of soccer players, football players, basketball players, all you want to do is maximize that window to the best of your capability. And then what happens later, we'll deal with that later. So because of that, fans need to understand that times are rough. There's a generational change coming. There's a good chance that Seattle might not get through in this Leagues Cup, and maybe we'll have some time off to figure out what's going to happen in domestic play in MLS tournament. But in reality, man, that's the truth of it. That's exactly why Seattle is in this uncharted waters of trying to figure out what's going to really happen.
And Seattle is not the only team that, and I know a lot of folks were wondering early on in this tournament, okay, it's all in America. The Liga MX teams, they're going to be fighting uphill. But it hasn't been the case where all of the Liga MX sides have been at the bottom of the table. I mean, we got Austin, who is fighting for their lives. You've got Seattle fighting for their lives. You've got Atlanta in a street fight with Cruz Azul coming up this weekend. And so it hasn't been as one-sided, I think, as a lot of folks thought it was going to be because of all of these home matches. And you're seeing a lot of the bigger guns in Major League Soccer with their backs against the wall coming into this weekend.
Yeah, actually, I believe if I have it correctly, I have 9 wins for MLS and then 7 for Liga MX in direct matchups. And that's including, of course, PK shootouts and getting that win in terms of that format in this group stages. So it has been good. MLS started off pretty well, but it was against those lower teams, the Pueblas, the San Luis, the Querétaro, right? All those teams that maybe are not the bigger clubs in Mexico. And then once the big boys got on there, things kind of changed a little bit. I mean, you saw America completely expose San Luis yesterday. Once San Luis was unable to get the ball with that first line of confrontation, and America was able to play through pressure. I mean, it was 2-3 touches. Quiñones coming from Atlas was a huge and fantastic signing for this America team. He played well, beyond well. He played amazing alongside Henry Martin. They both fed off each other. Julian's movement in and out of lanes and playing outside and coming back in. I mean, it was just too much for this San Luis team to handle. But we knew San Luis was limited. We knew that they were kind of a one-trick pony, and once that trick doesn't work, then you're kind of out of sorts, and that's what you saw against the America team. On the other hand, you had Cincinnati dominate at least a half. We'll see what happens here today when we resume that game that was stopped because of weather issues and lightning. But in that half, I thought Cincinnati was dominant. I mean, Chivas had no answers for the pressure. Lucho Acosta was conducting the ball, dribbling. He was passing the ball well in between lines. Vasquez, who was not intended to start that game, also right on point. Any touch he got inside the 18 was going in the net. So it was a 2-0 lead for Cincinnati. So you've seen both aspects, right? All in all, the conclusion is that both of these leagues, the teams, they're getting close. And in terms of level, they're very equal at this point. So if you were thinking the Liga MX was so much better than MLS, now you're getting a real sense for what it is. I still believe that all in all, MLS in general senses, from the worst team to the best team, has looked better. But we'll see what happens here on now. Now, let me try to finish off this whole point on teams fighting for their lives. Just talking to you a little bit about the Sounders, because they're going into this Monterrey game. They need a 3-goal at least to get through. They're playing with Stefan Fry, who dislocated his pinky. He tried to fix it himself, and I think did more damage than good. He went to a specialist. Now he's out for a short time, but he would not feature in this Sunday game against Monterrey. No Christian Roldan, again in concussion protocol. He got an elbow to the head at RSL, was not playing like himself all first half. Brian has to take him off. Now he's out for this game. Another big problem for the team. Now, what I do like is that it seems, and what I'm kind of seeing, is that starting 11 that I was hoping was going to get on the field will get on the field for this one. So I'll give it to you real quick. Cleveland at goal. You're going to get Alex Roldan going from right to left. Alex Roldan, Yemer Gomez-Andrade, Reagan, and Nuhu. In the midfield is going to be Albert Rusnak and João Paulo. That duo, for me, has been really good for this squad before. Is once again going to get another shot. I think he's going to get experience. He's going to get a lot of dominant play in terms of possession and balls through. So I like that. In the line right above them, you're going to have Jordan Morris out right. Nicolas Lodero going back to that 10 position that he loves so much, with all the freedom to gravitate to the left pocket where he is very effective. And Leo Chu on the left with Raul Ruidiaz up top. So I think this is a good team. Do I think it's enough for 3 or 4 goals? I don't know. We'll see. I mean, maybe if they reignite that fire of that team that won CCL. Well, hopefully, Raul Ruidiaz has a monster game. Jordan, coming back. Niko, too. He hasn't been playing that position often or as often as he has in the past before. So can he just show everybody that's where he should be? We'll see.
Has St. Louis been finally found out? Has it finally taken the world to sit there and see a 4-0 butt whooping by Club America? Because it was 1-0 at the break. Henry Martinez scores in like the 5th minute. It was 1-0 at the break. And then second half, it's like the switch gets flipped and it was bam, bam, bam. And it was 2, and then it was 3, and then it was 4. Do you think that this is going to be the tape now that will go out to everybody in the Western Conference to sit there and say, this is how you handle all caps SC?
Yeah. And I think I don't think America was the first one to find that out. They got exposed in the global stage, but I think in MLS, you remember that game here in Seattle, that 3-0 win for Seattle, and they've been beaten pretty hard before that as well, because they are a one-trick pony. And yes, everybody knows exactly what they're going to do in terms of that high pressure, that ability to be very direct. Now, I don't want to be dismissive, and I want to be fair to that team as well, because they are dealing with a lot of injuries still, right? So we'll still got to figure out what's going to happen when Klaus comes back. You still got to figure out what happens when they can put players in positions where they were really successful early in the year. Stroud is kind of a player that will have really good games and then some really cold ones. This one was one that he was just not looking well. He was kind of missing for a lot of this game. So I just think all in all, yes, in terms of concepts and what you will see in terms of approach and tactics, they have been found out. They have been exposed. They need to figure out what's going to happen whenever that high line of pressure doesn't work. It's okay to play a little deeper. It's okay to play in a mid block. It's okay to do certain things that maybe are not to your main philosophy, because you need to be versatile in soccer. If you're stuck to one way, it doesn't matter if you're trying to play with a diamond in the middle in a 4-4-2 like Bruce was trying to do in New England, and he figured out, hey, I need to be able to do certain things. And now he's doing, sometimes he plays with a 3-man back line, sometimes he does all that other stuff. Same thing for Seattle. So it's part of soccer. And yes, St. Louis just hasn't been able to do that.
And they're the very Red Bullsian way that they play, the stubbornness that's attached to a Red Bullsian approach. If you want to kind of, give yourself a little bit of width and body to your bio, it's gonna be an interesting test for Pfannenstiel, the front office, and Bradley Cornell to sit there and say, okay, we've got to come up with different ways to try to be ourselves here, even though our style is, literally for me, it is a very Red Bullsian style from where Cornell came from. Yeah,
100%. And I think they have to figure out and understand that what they were doing, taking the league by storm, is great. It works. But if you want a long, sustained success, you also need to get a little bit more talent. So I think a right winger would do this team a lot of help. Another productive player that's going to maybe be a target forward as well. Giochini, God, you got just applaud his effort and the runs he makes and how much effort he puts out there. But at the end of the day, sometimes it's just not enough, and he gets drowned by defenders. And once he gets no service, it's tough for him to get away from that. So the team just needs a little bit more help.
Now you look at a question from our buddy Bam, who is watching from Australia late night on a Friday. So for Bam, it's like this is how he ends his days, hanging out with us. He's got women's World Cup going on all day, and he hangs out with us before he goes to bed. Bam has a Leagues Cup question for you. Would it have been better if all Leagues Cup groups were put into a neutral city and all games were played there instead of having the Liga MX teams coming up and all of their action played here in this part of the world? Bam is wondering if neutral site would have been better.
Yeah, you know what? I like that. The whole style of play is very World Cup-ish, so why not do something like that where you have the same World Cup style, where you have teams play in certain stadiums neutrally, and everybody plays in those stadiums, and then you move on once that gets over and done with. So I like the idea. Honestly, it hasn't paid dividend for MLS at times, because Mexican fans, they travel so hard and they're so passionate that, I mean, you saw it right? When he came to St. Louis, those American fans were everywhere. You saw them, the way they run. I mean, man, it is impressive. Leon as well. It didn't matter where they were playing. You saw that fan base. You saw it last year. I saw it in Vegas when it was just like the showcase against the Seattle Sounders in that final. So yeah, I like the idea. I think in terms of logistics, player safety that you hear all the time from soccer federations, and it never really seems to be a priority. I think that's a really good idea.
Well, and I know that, and Michael Head, one of our other listener Twitch pitchers, says if all matches were played at neutral cities, the crowds would be sparse. And I know that in one of those examples, the group that's played at Q2, where you had Mazatlan playing Juarez, was basically friends and family. And I mean, literally, there was a lot of Verde that you could see. Verde y Negro was right there. You could see more seats than you could people. And I guess that's the danger that you have with doing something like this.
That's a very good point. That's a very good point. There are teams that still don't have that traveling fan base in terms of MLS. I think that you could see a hit on standings, and that could be the reason why they kind of went for it this way. They're playing it safe. Regardless of the city, you're going to get X amount of fans going to watch the home team, and then you add the Mexican fans that will travel from anywhere, and plus the ones that are in the city. So you probably have better odds in terms of attendance. So yeah, that's probably the reason why.
Well, and I know that as a TV partner, you want to have that TV environment. You want to have full seats. You want to have the environment like you saw at All Caps when Club America came to visit last night. Legitimately, we should not be surprised, I don't think, that Liga MX teams, especially the Grandes, will travel. So I don't want fans who are watching Leagues Cup or who might have been watching Leagues Cup in home markets to be surprised when you see things like we saw at All Caps last night with all the Club America fans that were there. Don't be surprised by those kinds of things. The fans in those fan bases will find ways to travel. They will be loud, they will be noisy, and it will be something that might be a bit of a sticker shock first off, but it's something that you've got to get used to because they're going to come after you, and you've got to be – I mean, I'm looking forward to seeing how many Cruz Azul fans show in Atlanta on Saturday night because of their history. Just don't be surprised by the Grandes and their fan support. Just don't be surprised by that kind of stuff.
Well, Cruz Azul will travel. Believe you me, that stadium will be full of blue in certain sections. That's a big traveling fan base. It's one of the greats of Mexico, and some might cringe when I say that, but it's the reality. Los Cementeros are a good traveling fan base. They're one of the big clubs. So it'll be interesting. I think at the end of the day, what you're seeing is just the start of something that could change heavily in the future. And the format, the level of soccer, and the globalization of it, it's what you want to start off with. How it's going to play out in the future might change, right? In a couple of years when this MLS fan bases continue to grow, maybe you'll see some of those changes. But for now, I think it's been really, really good.
For an MLS team, and this is Cruz Azul fans, they are loud, Hutch says. Hutch is like, yeah, Cruz Azul fans are loud. I mean, we've had them here, and we've had Liga MX teams here, and we know what to expect when those fan bases come in. Let me ask you this. For these MLS teams that are fighting for their lives to go into the knockouts, let's say, and I don't care which one you're talking about, let's say an MLS side does not make it out of group stage. Are you the kind of guy that wants to have that team that does not make the group stage idle for that 3 weeks to figure things out so they can get ready for the stretch run, so they can rest, so they can do that kind of stuff? Or are you the kind of guy in a tournament like this where you want to get into the knockouts. You want to play as many games as possible. You want to get everybody healthy. You want to be in rhythm for those 10 games. How are you when it comes to your approach? If you don't make it, cool, we'll focus and then we'll be ready for the stretch run. Or no, I want games and I want to keep my guys playing so we can stay in rhythm where we're not having to pick up friendlies with, college teams and lower division clubs. How are you wired?
I'm wired that I want my team to go as far as I can in an international tournament. That's plain and simple. There are circumstances of teams that maybe need that time to regain players. If you have a lot of injured players, if you're trying to get players back, if you're trying to sign players and maybe take that time to figure out what you're going to do in the future. But let's say for me, not only am I putting my team in a position to perhaps get some silverware, but you're also putting a team in a position where they're competing in an elimination game, and that mentality component just changes, unifies, whatever it is. I mean, it really makes a difference for a team to get ready for the rest of the tournament of MLS play by just being at home, training, maybe doing some rehab for some players, rather than being in a complete competition and being in game rhythm, which is completely different. So I like to have my team completely angled and ready, focused for an entire competition. So let's talk about the Seattle Sounders teams. For me, it'd be better for this squad that just has a couple of injuries to move on and continue to give themselves a chance to get silverware, but also to put their current form into a test against some really, really difficult teams in an elimination round. It's that simple.
By the next time you are with us, I believe it will be the end of the summer window. When it comes to folks that are active, inactive, how much more movement are you anticipating? And you can show your crystal ball as much as you want here for the final week. But who are you anticipating needs to make moves? Who do you see already looking to make moves? Who, when you're kind of gauging the landscape here for this last week of the transfer window, who are you seeing active? Who needs to be active? What are you looking at here in this final week?
Well, I'm looking very hard at Atlanta. I know that they're working to finalize in a couple of things. I'm hoping to drop some news within the next week or before that, man, because I feel like if I hold on anymore, Bogert or some of these guys are going to get on it. I mean, it's happened to me. It happened to me with New York, Julian, who's going to come in from Vélez. I mean, there's so many things. Facundo, Farias going to Inter Miami. This guy's going to be an absolute baller in MLS. So I think some teams are already set. Inter Miami is one of those teams that bringing Gomez, bringing Farias, and obviously Messi and Busquets and Alba, right? I mean, they're just loaded now in terms of talent. But there are teams like Atlanta that they're being very in the low, very don't look over here, but they're working on some stuff, and I'm hoping to get some of that stuff out. Portland themselves, they're closing down on a Brazilian winger out of Portugal. He should be very interesting as well. They need that help there. Although when Jimmy came back, I thought he was pretty decent. And of course, in the middle of the field with Evander, he's been really good so far, even though he kind of shot himself in the foot against Tigres here in this last game. Another squad that I'm looking at, maybe adding a couple more pieces. Could be, and this is very could be, but I think Philadelphia might be looking into getting a couple of players. So there are some teams that are still looking out there and getting some more players coming in. Seattle, if you're going to ask me about Seattle, don't. They're not getting anybody. I mean, it's over. There were some options for some MLS exchange, and that's now out the window. So I don't see Seattle bringing absolutely anybody, and that's going to drive people crazy. You'll see how they'll go bananas. I think LA Galaxy is another team that's also done with what they were able to bring. LAFC, perhaps they could do something else and bring more players. I know that they obviously just recently got a striker, right? Spanish striker that's going to be another component to that offense. But with a lot of movement and Cifuentes going to Rangers and things, you might see another player coming for LAFC as well.
And this is one of the points that I've tried to reinforce. It's two-pronged when it comes to transfer windows and things like that. Check your sources. Check your numbers, because on the 280 character app, you got to make sure that the folks that you're looking at when it comes to all of this news, make sure that when they on the 280 character app, whatever we're calling it now, you got to check for somebody that's more than like 561 followers that might be doing something out of their basement. Make sure, check your sources. And the other reminder is that just because you don't hear your team doing anything in the public sphere, just because you're not hearing rumors, doesn't mean, and this is going to be like 7 negatives in a sentence, just because you don't hear anything doesn't mean they're not working on something. Because if you work on something and you say it publicly, it puts you at a competitive disadvantage against other clubs and financially in trying to get that first tier guy that you want to bring in. You want the first choice guy, so best to work in silence than to work out in the public sphere.
Oh, 100%. And speaking of one of those, I got a lot of fans from, of course, probably this show, and thankfully for all your audience, asking me about Diego Rossi. Was he the guy that he was rumored? No, he's not the guy. Obviously letting them know that that's not what was going on. He's not the guy that they were looking at. Although I would love to have Pablo Rossi back. He's been so good. I mean, Diego Rossi. I'm sorry. Diego Rossi. Fuck just Pablo Rossi. Diego Rossi is the guy that they were looking at. And so, yes, just check your sources and do not be impatient. Some of the better moves sometimes get done under the line, under the radar. And that's how Atlanta's been able to do it. I've been surprised of how they've been able to kind of lock things up there. New York typically is the same way. This year, I think because of the agents they were dealing with in South America, they're very easily, very easily talking to the press at times, and so those things kind of come out. But yeah, a lot of teams, if you don't hear your team, doesn't necessarily mean that that's not going to happen. There are others like Seattle that are completely capped out on the salary where they just can't make any moves. But yeah, that's a really good advice there for all the fans.
Let's see. Before we go, I've just got a piece of information that has to do with said window. So we'll go ahead. NYCFC has acquired midfielder Andres Perea on loan from Philadelphia Union. For the end of the 23 season, Union will receive $300,000 in 2024 GAM, but will retain a portion of the player's 23 salary budget charge. No option to buy at the end of the loan. So once again, NYCFC acquires midfielder Andres Perea on loan from Philadelphia Union through the end of the 23 season. The release has quotes from sporting director David Lee. Congratulations on that paragraph. Perea moved from MLS on loan to Orlando City in 2019 before joining the club permanently a year later. Traded to Philadelphia last December. 4 goals, 3 assists in 82 appearances. So once again, the final numbers. NYCFC gets Perea on loan through the end of this year for $300,000 in 2024 GAM. Philadelphia retaining a portion of the player's 23 salary budget charge. So get that little piece of news to help out NYC before we go. Question to you before you go comes from Hutch. What team surprised you as underwhelming of what you expected in Leagues Cup?
Well, that's a good question. Underwhelming in general senses.
Would Seattle be in that group?
Seattle's definitely in there. I didn't want to say Seattle first, but thank you there, John. Absolutely. Seattle getting absolutely run off the field by RSL. I'm concerned what's going to happen against a Monterrey team that ran over that RSL team 3-0. So, yeah, that's concerning. I think Nashville was very disappointing because with the whole Messi thing, and did Messi exposed MLS, and Sergio Busquets is just being able to touch the ball without being pressured. And look, no offense to Atlanta, but Atlanta's not known for defensive anything these days. And the pressure and the ability to just let him do what he wanted to do is very individual and kind of segregated by just that one team. And when asked in other shows like in Argentina, hey, who's the best defensive team in the league? Here I go talking about Nashville, and they go and play completely off their identity in this one and just open up against Toluca. They start winning, and then they can't really hold it together after that. So that was kind of hard to see, hard to understand how Nashville, a team that has been so good with Gary Smith, at least in the structure. So that was disappointing for me. From the MX side, Puebla is a team that was disappointing. I thought they were going to have a little bit of a better sense of what they were doing. Cruz Azul as well. That's another team that I thought was going to be a little bit better. Yes, Inter Miami kind of surprises them and gets that result at the very end. Cruz Azul was much better than Inter Miami in the first 45, but I thought they were going to be able to do a little bit more. So yeah, I think in general census, that's kind of what I've gathered in terms of disappointing teams overall.
When was the last time you saw a keeper take a PK and it wasn't in a PK shootout after 90 minutes?
I think it was Rogero when he played for Sao Paulo, but I love it, man. I grew up in the Chilaver and Higuita era where these guys were the ones who took free kicks. They took PKs. I absolutely love it. Rogero is a guy that I'm sure that Toluca goalkeeper looks up to. And yeah, he's good. It's part of what they do. I think he's got 3 goals overall. So I love to see it, man. I think more keepers should get out there and take penalty kicks and free kicks, man. I grew up with that. It was so cool to watch Rene Guita running all the way to the top of the 18 to take a shot, and then if that doesn't go in, him sprinting all the way back. I mean, I love it, man. I'm all in on that.
Volpe got Toluca a bit of an advantage last night at Geodis. Last question for you before you go comes from Abby. Abby heard your studio audience and wants to know what kind of dog you have.
Oh, I know. I'm sorry. I was trying to get him away. He's a terrier. His name is Ozzy. He's the only black terrier that apparently not all of you have seen it. He's black with a little bit of white. It was funny. I'm sorry. He's a Yorkie. I just heard the missus over there tell me he's a Yorkie, not a terrier. It's a Yorkie.
Well, he acts like a terrier, but looks like a Yorkie. How about that?
There you go. Boom. You got it. He's a Yorkie. I don't know why I put him together all the time. Yorkie terrier. It's just a Yorkie. That's what he is. A Yorkie. Not a lot of black Yorkies. He was the only full black one from his litter, and I just fell in love with him. I'm a Raider fan. I'm all about the silver and black, and when I saw the black and white, man, I was all in. So yeah, that's little Ozzy Osvaldo Moreno.
Yeah, Yorkshire Terriers. That's how they roll. Hit the promo for me. What's going on?
Yes, so we are kind of taking a break on Soccer Bar. Our producer had some unfortunate family news. He had to fly to Argentina, so we're kind of taking a pause there. We probably won't be back until next Thursday. But in terms of Pulso, I'm going to have everything from right now. You can go and look at Joe Paulo talking about how difficult it was to get over the RSL game and what needs to be done. You'll hear Cleveland, who's going to be starting this game against Monterrey. And then whatever happens here today at the training grounds, you'll get it all at Pulso Sports. Plus, I will be doing some, or at least one, Twitter space because I need to do it, man. I need to just talk to the fan base, man, over here. People are getting ready to jump off buildings, and we don't want that. So I'm going to do a Twitter space probably later on tonight, if not Saturday morning.
You got it. At El Rolo NW, at Sports Pulso, at The Soccer Bar. Niko, my friend, it's always great to catch up with you on a weekly basis to get the Pacific perspective on what's going on. We will catch up with you next week, my friend. Be safe, be well, and knock it out of the park, eh?
Thank you. Appreciate you guys.
All right. Since that's the end of the show, it's the end of a week. We got other programming coming up. We're looking at USL League 2. We're looking at the NPSL. That'll be out later this afternoon. Tonight, it's the Twos and the Crew. 6:45 pregame Eastern time, 7 o'clock here on the SDH Network. For Niko, for Jason, for Jarrett, for Nick, I'm just John. Thanks to all the guests all week long. Thanks to our friends in Australia who chime in as well. That's the end of the week. That's the end of the show. That means I get to do this.